Welcome to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. On this podcast, we believe that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women and non-binary people are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. With our team of experienced writing coaches as co-hosts, we'll share insights and talk to inspiring guests to bring you the practical strategies, systems, and mindset shifts you need to find time to write, publish work you love, and design your career on your terms. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. Today, I am recycling a podcast episode for you as part of our series about emotions and writing. So basically, I went through my back catalog of over 250 almost episodes of the podcast, and I identified some that were really about writing and emotions. And so I have those for you coming up for the next little while, because I wanted to make sure that in this series on writing and emotions, we get to all the good stuff. So I would love for you to recommend this podcast and this podcast series to someone who you think needs it. I hope that as you listen to these recycled episodes, that you feel inspiration. All right, have a great day. Enjoy this episode. Did you know that the two biggest killers of writing productivity are guilt and overwhelm? At about this moment in the semester, maybe your main feeling that you have about your writing is guilt. Today, we're digging into how to deal with guilt, how to keep moving to get past it, and really how our relationship with our writing cannot involve guilt. Today, we're going to be explaining the actions you can take to make sure that you keep cultivating a positive relationship with your writing and eliminate guilt. Guilt surrounding writing projects is one of the biggest complaints that I hear from academic women. And maybe not even a complaint so much, but guilty is the way they describe feeling about their writing when they think about their writing practice. The problem with feeling guilty about writing is that it will smash down any possible inspirational feelings that you have, because nobody wants to do something because they feel guilty about it. Guilting people into action is not a good plan. And so you shouldn't do it to yourself. Yet this is a number one way that we respond to undone projects, too many projects, not being able to start. We feel guilty about it. So today I want to talk about where this guilty feeling comes from and how I have found it to be kind of unique to academic women, but definitely academic men in my audience might be able to speak to that. It didn't take me very long after coaching just a few academic men to realize that the problems that academics who identify as men face inside of their universities and towards their writing are really different from the way that academics that identify as women react to the pressures inside of academia to get their writing done. And one way that this comes out is through the use of the word guilt. So the men that I coached way back in the day would say not that they felt guilty, but they felt ashamed, which is really something different. And I realized as I talked more and more to women that they really identified those feelings around not getting their writing done as guilty feelings. And guilt is associated with those should, right? Those
obligations that we put on ourselves. We should be writing. We should be able to keep it all together. We should be able to manage all the things. It's not so much shame that you're not doing it. It's not so much shame that you're not getting something done, or that maybe men feel like they're not performing as an academic man is supposed to perform. That might be a better way to talk about shame, but that's not what women were saying. There's guilt, and then there's unproductive writing day guilt, right? As if what could be worse than to feel a lack of production around our writing. So what is it about us as academic women that leads us to these guilty feelings? Well, I think one part of it is that we know what we're supposed to do, which is right? And we know that we're supposed to put importance to our writing. I talk about centering your writing in your career, and we kind of know that we should do that, or we're supposed to do that, but we don't really know how. And so when we look across other women who are getting their writing done, or other academics who are getting their writing done, we think, what's wrong with me that I can't find time to write? Or what's wrong with me that I sit down and I meet half of my writing goal instead of all of it? And that is so defeatist, right? It feels absolutely horrible. But it's also understandable, because we have developed actually some pretty terrible feelings around writing because of the way that writing is positioned as a gatekeeper from early on in our academic careers. So to get your PhD, you have to write the dissertation, right? Then to get tenure, you need to write articles. And so it's like writing is standing in the way of our hopes and dreams, not helping us reach them. So if that's how you feel at the moment, that writing actually is an obstacle or something you have to overcome in order to go on with your career, then what we need to do is think about how we can shift our attitude towards writing. I remember being so stressed out trying to write my dissertation. And then one of my wise committee members said, "Enjoy this time. It is the last time that all your academic focus will be on research only, or your research project only." And I will never forget those words. Though I still had my share of stress, my attitude towards what I was doing really shifted after she told me that. And writing truly became more joyful. And actually, if you Google my dissertation, I think that my dissertation actually reflects the fact that I enjoyed writing it. When writing for publications that could make or break getting a job or a promotion or tenure, the stakes are so high. But with a little attitude shift, we can feel better about the writing work that we need to do. So when I work with my coaching clients, the first thing I have them do is write an academic mission statement. Now, I'm going to give you the basic template for the academic mission statement as an audio here. Then you can go and think about it, and you can go to my blog and find the academic mission statement blog post, and it will tell you how to write one. Of course, we'll also provide you that link in the show notes. So here's the template that you can use to create your academic mission statement. I use, and then you fill in this blank with methodologies or theoretical frames, to study, and then the next blanks are population, phenomenon, context, in order to, and then you finish the academic mission statement with the change you want to see in the world. So here's an example of my academic mission statement. I use ethnographic methods to study translanguaging in Puerto Rican university classrooms in order to normalize bilingual content learning and inform theories of bilingualism. So that's one of the many different versions I've had of my academic mission statement. The mission statement is definitely something that you should revise at least every 6 months. But the important part that I want to connect back to guilt is that I want to have you think about writing an academic mission statement so that you can articulate that change that you want to make in the world. All right. So by writing and publishing, your voice is influencing your field of study. And guess what? You are the only one who can do that in your unique way. So instead of seeing writing as a barrier to your academic career, right, we're trying to shift our attitude towards our writing and defeat that idea of writing as the gatekeeper. So instead of seeing writing as a barrier or a gatekeeper, shift your attitude to think about how your writing is a contribution that you are making to help the world be a better place. So let your writing inspire you as a core way to work towards your academic mission. Now, some of you might be saying, oh, Kathy, you just made me feel even more guilty. But let me talk through that for a second. If you keep pushing writing to the bottom of your list because you don't feel like you should take the time to do that important work, almost like you don't deserve the time, that's a problem because you do deserve it. You deserve to write and publish more. You deserve to have the career that you want. You deserve to have it on your terms without overwork and overwhelm. And so if you're feeling guilty about putting time into your writing, I want you to think about the other areas of your life where maybe you feel guilty. Do you feel guilty taking yourself to the gym because you feel like you're taking time away from your work and putting emphasis on yourself? Do you feel guilty taking a break away from your partner or from your kids and getting some rest? Are you the kind of person who thinks I could never go on a writing retreat because I could never leave my family at home or the people that I care for at home? Well, guess what? Yes, you can. And the reason that you can is because you deserve to. You deserve to spend that time invested in your own self-development and your own career development. But sometimes we feel guilty about taking that time, right? We feel guilty because putting time into your writing is prioritizing yourself. And it's hard for many women to prioritize themselves. They would rather prioritize their students, their departments, their families, their cats, anything rather than prioritize yourself. You don't have to feel guilty about making your writing and yourself and your career a priority. In fact, that's what I want you to do. So, one way to combat guilt around writing and taking time to write is to focus on your academic mission statement. Try to reprogram your thoughts around writing if you feel like writing has been a barrier to your success or something that you have to do to overcome and get to the next level in academia, instead of something that is the work, that is the wonderful part of being in this career. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how you can move writing up the list, which will make you feel more positive about it because you'll be giving it the place it deserves. So move writing up the list. I'm just going to put this out there and say, if you center your writing, everything else falls into place. And if you listen back, I have a previous episode about what it means to put writing at the center. So go back and listen to that one. Of course, it's not simple. That's why there's a whole episode about it. And it certainly is a process. But what if writing stopped being that thing you never get to so that you feel guilt about and started being the driving force behind everything? Okay, let me give you a practical example. And this is an example from a couple of semesters ago in my own academic work. So I was teaching our senior linguistics seminar for undergrads. It's a 4,000 level course. And I was teaching a grad course called Current Approaches to Linguistic Theory. It was one of my favorites to teach. So I was teaching 2 courses. And then I also had a grant project where I was collecting observational data on how students at my university here in Puerto Rico were preparing for a qualifying exam in agriculture. And this exam is an exam in English that qualifies them for a specialization in agriculture, that they get a special title that helps them get jobs. But most of the study that they had done about the topic of the exam, they had done in Spanish medium courses. So the qualifying exam is in English, and all of their academic work had been either in Spanish or a mix of Spanish and English. So that was what my semester looked like. In addition, I was the advisor for 3 master's students. And so that adds up to my 12 credits of full-time professor work. So if I put writing first, or my plan for putting writing first, this is what I did that semester. This is what I did. So I set up both of my courses to support my research project. Here's how I did that. I apprenticed my seminar students to become my co-researchers in collecting, analyzing, and presenting the data from my grant project. So what we did was everybody got the CT certification, which certifies them in being able to do human subjects research. We got IRB approval and added them as researchers on our IRB. And then they basically, each one of them would come with me. So I would go and we would both take ethnographic field notes. We learned in class how to take ethnographic field notes and how to transcribe. And they were my co-researchers for that grant project. So everything we did in that course, which was about linguistics research, we went and did linguistics research. We learned about code switching. We read about code switching and translanguaging. And then we observed for it under the umbrella of my research project. In the Current Approaches to Linguistic Theory class, I assigned them all the readings that I wanted to do to support my research project. And that became the literature review for my grant project. But I was able to bring in specific field examples of things that were going on that we were reading about in the linguistic theory class. I could give them real life examples. I could talk to them about the ideas in the readings, which helped me develop the ideas, but also helped them. And since the research was taking place in the Puerto Rican context and my students are Puerto Ricans, that helps me as an outsider. I'm a little bit of an insider, also outsider, because I grew up in the United States, but I've lived in Puerto Rico for about 15 years. And that helped me get that insider, outsider take on the research that we were reading. So everything that I did that semester in my classroom was supporting my research and writing. So the research and writing drove the semester instead of the teaching driving the semester, and you're trying to fit in the research and writing. So this type of plan, think about how you could do it in your classroom. This helps save time by leveraging work across these different areas of my career. Now, I should also say that the students that I accept as my master's students are all writing about translanguaging in education. So none of this work is lost. And they are also reading and writing about the same topic that is the general topic of my research area. So this really helps me show students how research and writing get done by involving them in the process with me. It helps me to focus my writing project because I'm writing, right? We talk about what counts as writing, right? The reading and the prep and everything, that all is foundational to the writing. So I'm writing while I'm prepping for class. I'm writing while I'm in class, right? I'm developing writing ideas in discussion with my students. My semester became like about this one project, the output of which is an article, right? And I had already pitched that article to a special journal issue and had been invited to submit the full version when I was doing that data collection. So writing is the center and everything else aligns. This helps you to not feel guilty about the writing because everything that you're doing is about the writing. So it doesn't feel separate or secondary or peripheral, but instead is central to what you're doing. It's not the same kind of like I have to make time for it. It's driving everything that happens. So the last kind of point that I want to make in this episode is to say that if you love on your writing, it will love you back. And what I mean by this is that you need to actively cultivate a positive relationship with your writing. And this is something that I've talked about in a previous episode that we can link up in the show notes. So sometimes, maybe most of the time, the culture of academia sets us up for failure. There's a value in academic culture that goes like this. If you are really meant to be here, you would just figure out everything on your own. Consequently, most of what we actually do in our everyday lives as academics is not taught in graduate school or anywhere else. We have to learn to be project managers, to dominate different genres of writing, most of which we've never written before. We have to know how to manage students, run a lab, hire research assistants. The list of what we're supposed to magically know how to do is super long. That's why I'm glad that you're listening to this podcast, because it means that you recognize that seeking out training and insight into how to get the work done is important, even if that seeking goes against deeply inscribed academic values. Okay. It is worth your time to develop yourself professionally and develop yourself as a writer. So let me put it this way. If you want to write more and to put writing at the center and to feel good about writing and have a healthy publication pipeline, you need to show your writing a little love. You need to spend time learning how to manage your writing, how to make it better. Don't sit in a corner and think something is wrong with you for not magically knowing how to, quote unquote, balance it all and make writing fit. Nothing is wrong with you. You just work in a culture where asking for help is a sign of weakness. If you take some time and energy and invest in showing your writing a little love, your writing will love you back. And by that, I mean that you will start to have positive feelings associated with your writing instead of feeling guilty. That's why listening to this podcast is important. Investing in professional development programs, doing that kind of investment in your professional development is going to help you get over feelings of guilt. So just to recap, remember that our experience through academia actually positions writing as a gatekeeper. So if you've totally naturally, through your experience inside of academia, developed negative feelings around your writing, it's okay. It's expected even. But now is the time to shift your attitude and re-uncover, re-find your writing inspiration. And you can do that by writing an academic mission statement. Also, you need to know, and I'm telling you this right now, that you deserve to write, that you can organize your academic semester around your writing instead of having it be peripheral. And when you do that, you stop feeling guilt about writing because writing is the work instead of writing being extra work. And finally, remember that when you participate in training around your professional life, when you participate in development, you go on a writing retreat, you invest time and money and energy into making yourself better as a scholar, but also just as a professional, And of course, as a writer, when you do those things, and one of them, congratulations, is listening to this podcast, then you will be rewarded by having a more positive relationship with your writing. We need to have your voice in the world. We need to have you doing inspiring and field-altering work. And for that, we need you to figure out how to let go of guilt around writing. And I hope that I've given you some ways to do that in this podcast today. I hope that you are surviving this moment of the semester and that you've thought of some ways that you can take action against guilt. Happy writing!
Thank you so much for spending your valuable time supporting yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you like what you heard today, the best way to say thank you is to hop on over to Apple iTunes and write an honest review. The more reviews, the more amazing academic women and non-binary people will find this podcast. So go write one now.